You know, sometimes your outfit picks itself. Like today. I was not planning on filming videos, but I had the energy. So then I looked at the tags and I realized this was the tag that I had completed the answers for. So this was what was going to happen. And it happened to be an English major. And I'm pretentious and I'm wearing the first turtleneck in like my life. So I guess I should have been an English major, like my history teacher thought. Literally, she pulled me into her classroom and said, I do not feel morally correct about giving you this reference for counselling undergrad. And that was when my pencil fell out. And I never got her respect again. And when we visited her, my friend was like, yes, I'm a history major. And she was like, and what are you, still doing counselling? And I was like, yes, ma'am, I am. She was very disappointed. Very, very disappointed. But here I am. Doing a English major's history, so she would be very happy that I am doing that. But I loved these questions. They are creative. Hannah from Snow White Reader is one of my favorite creators on here. She's just so freaking amazing. So I'm doing this and it's going to be pretentious and it's going to be wonderful and it's going to be everything that I love. So. The first one is Romanticism. What's a book you seem to wear rose-colored glasses for? A book that definitely deserves a reread. So this one has to be The Kite Runner. This could also win for one of my favorite books of all time and one of my favorite books I ever read in school. However, grade 12 history, we read The Kite Runner. It's not like a class that's normally taught in classes, but my goodness, like, me becoming a critical reader, me reading, like, books that are outside of my, like perspective, reading a book that primarily takes place in Afghanistan and is from an Afghani point of view, even when in the US. I love this book and I loved talking about it, and I've been so scared to reread it, even though I know it's going to be so amazing. And then we have John Mulaney is an English major. What's a book that you felt accurately represented an aspect of your life? I kind of had three here, but let's go with The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. When I read the book, I loved it so much, mostly because, you know, there's often a description of women or females in books that are either like soft and delicate or like hardcore, like bosses who have shields. I'm a pacifist, but like, I'm also a little bit like, I'm street smart and I had to learn to take care of myself and I had to learn to think a lot before I said, and I never had the thing where like I'm outspoken, but I'm also not ever like super blunt or super like I think things through. So like the idea of like I've always identified with a Slytherin, not because I'm bloodthirsty, but because I think that I'd like to say that I'm cunning and I think through things, and I would rather be clever than smart, and I would rather be clever than bold. So that is my thought on that. And like Elizabeth Lavenza in this novel is brilliant, but she's also always looking through the idea of how do you protect yourself and how do you preserve yourself. In somewhat self-preserving, but the fact that she was abused and that she was hurt and now she has to know that keeping people liking her is something that is something possible for her survival, which is something that I wouldn't like to say that I see in myself. And I see the fact that, you know, often I think about my words and think about the idea of someone hurting me because they disagree with me or something like that. But I do think those things. So making sure that I'm careful with the words that I say and that I'm aware of who's around me and how they're going to perceive what I'm saying, that's something that I really identify. The Fire Never Goes Out is a graphic memoir by Noelle Stevenson, and this book was so good at looking at what it means to be creative and what it means to be someone who is constantly working, except for the fact that the fire does go out. And for her, it was depression and burnout. And for me, it was burnout and developing a chronic illness from literally not taking care of myself. So that like my body literally started deteriorating at the age, well, as a teenager, and fully like was hospitalized and debilitated by the time that I was 20, because of the amount of stress and trauma that I'd gone through in my early life. So yeah, that one related to me a lot. Oh, so you want to teach. Even though English majors are versatile, this question about always gets asked. Name a book that was more in depth than you expected, or a book that surprised you with how many topics it's covered. Una Out of Order. This was such a fantastic novel. Like, I've heard no one talking about it, and it is definitely like right up there in competition with a few for my very favorite book of 2020. It is friggin' brilliant, and it is emotional. I cried, I laughed. It follows the girl who on her 18th birthday, which happens to be, is it her birthday? Yes, it's her birthday and New Year's Eve. So she like literally, her birthday is January 1st, I believe. And she goes downstairs and it flips to when she's 58, and then she finds out that she lives every single one of her birthdays in, like, every year on her birthday, which happens to be 31st to the 1st, she switches. So, like, she goes from 58 to 40 to 21 to things. So she lives her life out of order. And the beauty of this is that it deals with family relationships, it deals with, like, relationships and abuse and all of these different things, and how, like, lies and truth and so many aspects. But, like, mostly it deals with the fact that, like, you're always going to be missing a part of someone you love. Whether that person is in the future or that person past, you won't have all the people you love most in your life right now. And then it also has the uncertainty of life, that, like, you can't pre-plan your life. Like, even though she immediately flips to, I think, 53, so she knows a lot of things that are going to happen. She can't prevent them from happening. She doesn't know things. And it's such an amazing book. I can't even describe, but it does touch on a lot more than you would think that it would touch on. And then we have Symbolism. What is a book that represents something you love? I read Everyday Ubuntu, and this one was also really great. So I don't know how to describe this perfectly, but, like, this describes my philosophy on life. This is a book that deals with South Africa in philosophy on, like, kindness and culture and history and looking at people complexly. And I don't know how to describe it. It's a philosophy book, so it's very hard to describe, but it, like, looks at, like, generosity and how, like, if we bind together and if we choose to look at people complexly, then we can actually get along and do things a lot more. That's a bad description of the book, but, like, it's a philosophy book. You should read it. But, like, it was one of those books that I just read and I was like, yes, to, like, everything it said. And Pretentious Paradox. Name a book that you've read and often bring up in conversation to impress people. I would like to argue, it's probably the most pretentious thing, that I don't do this. I literally asked my roommate, I was like, what is a book that I bring up all the time? And she said Anne of Green Gables, and I was like, I don't think I bring up Anne of Green Gables because people, like, think that it's pretentious. Like, I think it's the most wonderful book on the planet. Most people don't think that, though. And then she said Frankenstein, and I was like, I get that Frankenstein is probably my, like, intellectual thing, but I'm normally like, let me tell you about the actual story of Frankenstein. So again, that could be pretentious. That could be pretentious. Anyways, I think that a lot of people in my life probably think that I'm pretentious every time I bring up a book. But, like, the fact that it's actually about, like, Frankenstein is a dropout, and also Frankenstein is also, like, Frankenstein's monster, Adam or Prometheus or whatever you want to call him, is, like, intelligent, and that the only reason that he's rejected is because of the fact that he is ugly or non-traditional or not normal, and he's looking for love all around it, and then he's rejected, and then he turns to violence. But it's, like, after he applies, and he's like, make me something that, like, someone who will love me, and then he's like, no, they might love each other too much and occupy the world, or they might not love each other at all, and then they will fight. And, I friggin' love this book so much, and it, like, explores many things. I need to reread it because it's been a while, and honestly, I love the themes probably more than, like, the parts of it. But yeah, I'm pretentious as heck with every book I talk about. Like, I can give, like, a good thing to be like, here, a graphic novel, which is probably not as pretentious, and I'm like, here's all the themes in it. So yeah. The Art of BS. The concept of arguing for the possibility of something to be true. What is a book that you feel like you could debate about eternity? Everything. I would just choose anything that was controversial and just debate it because I love it. But The Turn of the Screw, the most ambiguous book, 122 years after publication, it's still being debated. It just had its 35th adaptation. Watching it right now, extraordinary. But, like, what is her thoughts? And then I also read, like, Shirley Jackson, like, The Lottery and other stories, as well as The Haunting of Hill House. Like, I could debate so many things about this. I don't know. I'm just gonna make noises in affirmation. I'm slightly fine and, like, a little bit hyper because I've been coped up in my house for 2 weeks sick, so I'm like, energy, time to film. Yeah. I could debate pretty much any book, but those are two with very, like, ambiguity that I think I could discuss a lot. And then we have your favorite old dead white author. Nothing is perfect as proven by classic literature. What is a book that you hasn't aged well that you either love or hate? So I picked The Personae by Ezra Pound. It has a story to it. It's a very, very sad story. So I read a poem by him. I was like, I'm gonna read all of his poems. So I sat down and I read this Personae, which was like 39, 40 poems. And I'm like, 3 poems at the end, I'm like, these are so beautiful. I must look up the author. And I did. And I found out he was a literal Nazi. Like, not even just like a German Nazi, like an American who became not American so that he could become a Nazi. Oh, and he also really liked Mussolini. Like, he was literally imprisoned for Nazi crimes. Like, I still don't know how, because I'm like, I want to read, I would love, but like, how? Ezra Pound, why do you have to be such a terrible person? And like, he influenced so many people, and I'm like, you literally became a traitor to your country because you hated people who weren't white and Aryan. Ugh. Yeah. So, yeah, that's Ezra Pound. There's lots of the books that I could want, but that is probably the one that I'm like most just like angry with. Dark Academia. Who is a book character you love but know in your heart you would not get along with? Probably most of them. But Emma, I love her. I see a lot of my worst traits in her, but man, I don't think I would love myself in real life. I realized that I started reading my own comment about it, but yeah. Emma is amazing. When we did the Jane Austen books and I helped co-host one of them, they made the prize, which makes me very happy, and they said, you know, the person who would see the best in everyone, including Emma, and I'm like, I love Emma Woodhouse, mostly because I laugh because she has all of my worst traits. But I do love her so much. I don't know if I would like her in real life. I feel like she'd remind me too much of myself, but maybe that would also make me love her. I'm gonna cough again. So now we have bubble tea, and I'm gonna pretend like I'm not coughing. We're gonna get through this, okay? Guys? So the next question is a bonus question, and it's the last one, and it is about the fact that what is your favorite and least favorite book that you have read for class? Lord of the Flies. You know, I liked writing essays about it, but cannibalism and children, and I don't believe civilization is the only thing that makes us evil. I think that we are all prone to good. Do we do bad stuff? Absolutely. Do we, like, you know, look over our shoulder and say, no one's here, I'm gonna murder someone? Maybe not. Also, there's some books that I just hated in my undergrad as well. Okay, favorite books, The Great Gatsby. I friggin' love this book so much. Rereading it right now, and I love it. Like, I love everything about it. Every, like, sentence is so richly written. And sometimes that's pretentious, but I'm pretentious, and I'm dying. And Love's Executioner is my favorite one from my undergrad, which focuses very much on, so it is mostly cases that are fictionalized, I think mostly just by names and stuff to keep people's identity secret. But Irvin Yalom is a very well-known and one of the fathers of existentialism, which is the theory and therapy that I practice. And yeah, so he just goes over and goes through these real-life people and tells their stories and tells his own reactions. And he's very vulnerable about, you know, the things that he likes, the things that he disliked, the things that he struggled while treating these people and their own struggles. And it, like, helped me so much in treating people. And, like, I still, like, when I'm working with people and I'm sitting down and, like, I'm thinking and utilizing his things. And sometimes later I'm like, thank you, Irvin Yalom. Thank you for giving me things. So it's probably one of the most practical, but also one of the greatest books that I've read, and I absolutely loved it. So I am going to tag some people. I'm going to tag Cara from the Wilde Book Garden. I'm going to tag Ania's Bell Jar. She just came back. Loved her videos. I've been sick. I haven't watched any of the new ones, but she's great in all memories. Yeah. And she's wonderful and has a great channel. And then we also have Margaret and Kenzie. Love them from The Word Nerd and from Kenzieleetea. So I will tag those people and have a great day and happy reading and writing.